Bright QT. Every student matters.
Welcome children. We were carrying on with the reading part of comprehension passages, unseen passages, how to solve it, what to do with it, the meaning of the entire passages. The two passages were done. Today we will learn the reading of a poetry. Poetry is one of the most important part of literature, from where you get the image of what is rhyming, how you have to rhyme the sentences and the words. Okay, it's all, poetry is all about the evocative form of literature. So what is the meaning of evocative form of literature? It always brings a strong image, memories and feeling of the mind. Well, like when you are writing a poem, you are giving your thoughts, your hidden thoughts, your mind and your, the thinking power of yours. You are portraying that in writing style. You can bring strong images, memories and feelings of a person, of a mind. It is an imaginative or arranging words. Definitely in poem, we need to arrange word, sound and rhythm. Today we are going to do a poem named Ozymandias, a very famous poem written by P.B. Shelley. So, before coming to that poem, let us see that what the poet wants to convey. The poet wants to convey the meaning of expression or feeling. Like the poet is always wanting to project his or her feeling in her own way or in his own way. One approach to making basic understanding of the poem is to first look at the literary meaning of the words. Obviously, to write poem, you need to have, first you have to have the prowess of language, second the prowess of feeling, and third the prowess of depicting it properly. So, it is the hidden things are attached to a poem. The hidden meanings, the hidden style, the hidden projection is all about a poem. Ask yourself, what is the poet trying to say in the poem Ozymandias? So let us go back to the next page, children. This literal meaning may be just the level of poem structure. There is often a second figurative meaning. What is the meaning of figurative meaning? Figurative meanings means metaphorical. It is something which represents the power of legacy and comment. Metaphor, a power of legacy and comment. Figurative meaning attached to the poem that the reader needs to identify. You have to know the feeling, the prowess, the power of feeling and depicting it is what is metaphorical. You have to have that metaphorical, the metaphor, it can be a comparison, it can be a similarity. You have to search out in the poem when you write a poem, the metaphorical or the figurative meaning attached to the poem that the reader needs to identify. In the poem, the reader actually needs to identify figurative meaning. However, it is not very difficult to identify figurative meaning in reader considers the tone and attitude adopted by the poet. If you are really interested in poem, and if you go through the poem twice or thrice, you will automatically come to know and identify the figurative meaning of the poem. What is basically the metamorphical feeling or the metamorphical reason the poet is wanting to give to the or convey to the readers. Keep in mind, when reading a poem, that is the speaker and the poem may not always be the poet. Then is your first task as a reader. Identify the speaker of the narrator. Once this is done, analyze the attitude of the speaker towards the main subject of the poem you got from the use of words and language of the poem. Gauge is to measure. The meaning of gauge is measure. So while you are reading a poem, it's not necessarily that the speaker, the poet is wanting to speak or to write or to rhyme. You have to identify it yourself. It may not be rhyming, it may be just a simple narration kind of a poem. You have to know the words and the language of the poem's construction. You have to justify the language and the construction of poem mainly. A poem is a creative form of language of writing. It is meant to encourage the reader to read poem and find literal meaning. The literal meaning, as well as to go beyond and read between the lines to reflect upon the idea that the poet wishes to convey through the poem. Let me repeat it again. We have to know the literal meaning as well as to go beyond and read between the lines to reflect upon the idea that the poet wishes to convey through the poem. So in this poem, the Ozymandias, let me give you the basic meaning of this poem first. Okay, then I will come to the detail of it. The basic meaning of the poem is that the speaker, I have told you the name of the poet is P.B. Shelley. So the speaker of the poem meets a traveller who came from an ancient land. The traveller describes two large stone legs of a statue. In the first 4 lines, the traveller is talking about the stone legs of a statue. With lack of torso to connect them and stand upright in the desert. What does this mean? The two stone leg statue which has fallen and it's upside down, the desert. Near the legs, half buried in sand, is the broken face of the statue. And what the traveller says, that the 2 broken legs were there of a statue, probably of a king, and it has already fallen on the desert sand, has gone inside the sand, and half of the face is also under the sand, and the half of the face is being seen, half buried in the sand, and the broken face of the statue. It is the broken face of the statue. The statue's facial expression. He also describes, the traveller also describes the facial description of that particular statue which has broken. The frown and a wrinkled lip form a commanding haughty sneer. You know, the face of that broken statue shows that it has got frown, brows, you know, like this, angry look, arrogancy is there, and commanding and haughty sneer. Haughty sneer means that the entire image of the face was described by the traveler, that the stone has fallen, the statue is broken, the two legs of the broken statue is buried in the sand, and the face is also buried in the sand. But still, the traveler could see the face, the stern effect of the face. The king, the statue of the king, he was so haughty, arrogant, and he was so, probably the frown brows indicate that he was cruel too. The frown and the wrinkled lip form a commanding, haughty sneer. The expression shows that the sculptor, this is what the traveler is saying, that the expression shows that the sculptor understood the emotions of the person. You know, the traveler says to the poet that the sculptor is one of the wonderful, the best of the sculptor has made this king's statue, who has portrayed so well the face that it completely depicts the character of that king. The expression shows the sculptor understood the emotions of the person statue is based on, and now these emotions live on, carved forever in animated stone. So it is forever, it will remain in that carved sculptured face. In making the face, the sculptor's skilled hand mocked up the perfect reaction and those feeling, and the heart of that felt those feeling. In the process, so perfectly conveyed the subject's cruelty that statue itself seemed to be mocking its subject. So, in this poem, let me come back to the poem, children, and easily, let me give you more easily and compact way, that the poet meets a traveler in the middle of the road when he is going to the desert. And the traveler says, you know what I have seen? I have seen the statue of the king, who was known to be one of the most cruelest king here. His statue had been made, because the king wanted to show his arrogance and his power to the people. He made a statue for himself. Now the king is no more, he has died. But the statue, nobody remembers him now. And what happened to the statue? The statue, it has broken. The sculptor made it so perfectly, but it's now broken, and his two legs are sunk under the sand, and his face is also it is inside it has gone inside the sand, but the expression of the face is still there. The expression of the face of that king shows that how much cruel he was. The sculptor was so capable and so efficient that he efficiently did his job, absolutely portrayed the correct character of the king. So, here we see that P.V. Shelley is portraying his feeling about what the traveler said about the Almighty King, who felt himself to be one of the greatest and almighty. Once he used to feel himself to be the God. But what a mockery that nobody remembers him now, and his statue has also fallen, and it has gone inside it has sunk into the desert, and it has half sunk into the desert, and it is shattered. Okay, so I am reading the poem now. I met a traveler from an antique island who said, "Two vast and trunkless broken leg. Of stone stand in the desert. I saw two broken legs stand on the desert. Near of them on the sand half sunk. The desert, the sand, the two legs, the two half trunk of the legs were sunk under the sand, and shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled visage is the face of the king, whose frown and wrinkled lip the sneer of cold command, which showed how much cruel he was, how much he was a dictator. His frown eyebrows and wrinkled lip and sneer cold command, the sculpture did it so perfectly that it portrayed the image that the king was a very, very cruel ruler. Well, those passions red which yet survived stamped to this lifeless thing. But now it is all lifeless. The hand that mocked them, mockery. The hand that mocked them. What has happened now? What did he do? What did the king gain? He gained nothing. He gained no fame he gained. He was actually known as a cruel king. Nobody liked him. Nobody cared for him after his death. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and one of the pedestal these words appear. In the pedestal it was written, "My name is Ozymandias." So what's the name of the king? The name of the king is Ozymandias, king of the kings. What he used to show his arrogance by saying, king of the king. Look at how much powerful I am. Look that I am Ozymandias and I am the symbol of power. I am the king of the kings. Look at my work, ye mighty, and despair. Look at my work. He's so proud that to say to people that look at my work, so mighty and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay. Now what is it? Nothing has remained. All has gone. Everything has gone. Everything has decayed. Everything is finished. On the colossal wreck, boundless and bare. Colossal wreck means the architectural destruction. The boundless and bare. The lone and level stand stretch far away. The lone and level stretch far away. Boundless is unlimited. Okay? And bare, the lone and level stand stretches far away. Now he is far away from the people. He is standing all alone. Nobody, not even standing. Everything is finished. The statue is broken. Okay? Now it is all over. Though he used to claim that I am Ozymandias, I am the king of the king, this and that. But ultimately, what was the result? Nobody remembered him. This is what is the basic, wonderfully written by P.B. Shelley. Actually in those days, the kings used to be very cruel. They used to exploit people to have the power of their own. They used to maintain the power of their own. So, this kind of attitude in the Western world was very common, like you all know about Hitler. So, this is a form of the mind of P.B. Shelley, what P.B. Shelley is wanting to mean by writing this kind of poem. Probably he has wrote the poem thinking about some particular character which he knows, or it is a picture of his mind probably about the kings. So he has depicted in a poem that how if you would have been a good king, if you would have been a great ruler, if you would have been a great administrator, people would have they would have loved you. They would have they would have every time reminded about you. They used to, they would have talked about you, remind about you, and you would have been the most popular hero probably. But here Ozymandias was nothing but a very normal king with all arrogance and bad behavior and cruelty. This is what the poem is depicting. Nobody will remember you if you are a poet, if you are a man, like if you are a king. Even if you are a king, nobody is going to remind you after a few days. They will all will forget, and that what has happened. So he had very proudly made a statue. Ozymandias had very proudly made a statue of him, but the statue was also broken. And you have also seen how nicely P.B. Shelley is talking about the sculptor who has made the face with a frown and the lip and the expression which showed the cruelty of the king and how wonderfully he did his job. This is what the poem is all about, the mind and soul and feeling of the romantic poet. He was a romantic poet basically. P.B. Shelley is a romantic poet. So children, here we can feel what message the poet is wanting to convey to you. The poet is actually wanting to convey to you that maybe you become a great ruler, maybe that you become a great king, maybe that you become very famous. But what if nobody recalls you, nobody remembers you? What is it? What is it? Nobody remembers about you, nobody recalls about you. So what is the fun? So be good, don't be cruel to people. Though you are a king, try to be loyal to your people, try to be truthful, try to be honest, and try to be loving and caring and thinking about the difficulties of your people. This is what is the poem all about. So let me come to the next page. I will give you the answers of the question, children. Let me come to the next page. What is the theme of the poem? The temporariness of arrogance and power. The temporariness of arrogant power is the theme of the poem. What difference does the narrator find from the traveler's description when he sees the statue? The difference the narrator finds in between the trunkless of the statue and the inscription. The shattered visage in line 4 refers to the head of the statue The arrogance that was destroyed What do the wrinkled lip and sneer cold command in line 5 suggest? As I told you, the wrinkled lip, like the tight lipped, and the sheer cold command of the face, the arrogance is showed there in the 5th line. So I am giving you the answer. This line suggests that the king was a cruel ruler. Explain the irony of the inscription of the pedestal of the statue. Now, what is the word irony means? Irony means, what is the poet trying to say behind the write-up? What he has written, that the statue has fallen, it is broken. It can be a normal thing, like it has broken, it has fallen and it has broken, the trunks are broken and the face is sunk inside the desert. It can be a normal thing. But what is the irony behind it? The irony behind it is that now nobody is concerned about the ruler. Everybody has forgotten him. No matter how big you think about yourself, how much famous you feel yourself to be, a day after you are no more in this world, if you are not a good person, nobody is going to remember you. Nobody is going to remember you. Everybody will forget. And if you leave a good image, a positive image with love and kindness, everybody is going to remember you. This is a very, very big reality. So the irony is that what exactly the poet is saying and what exactly the meaning behind it, that part is known as irony. Okay, he is saying it laughingly, but there is a big tragedy behind the poem. Explain the irony of the inscription of the pedestal of the statue. The irony is that even though the inscription the statue, it boasted, it showed the pride of that king, boasted of power and richness. There was nothing but sands. What is left? Where do you stand? You have boasted a lot. You have a great pride that I am rich and powerful. Where has it gone? It has all mixed with sand. It is all waste, gone waste. But sands around near the broken statue. Nothing besides remain. Explain the line in your own word. Nothing beside remains. What does it mean? These lines has been, the line has been used after the inscription where the king had boasted boasted, look at my work, look at my work, but there was nothing around. There was nothing around, just sand, just sands, as I could see. Children, while I was giving you the meaning of the lesson, in one place I have said that nobody will remind you. I am sorry for that. The word is not remind you. They will not remember you. Okay, that was a slip of tongue. So I am sorry for that. And children, you note down that it will be remember. The word will be remember. Nobody is going to remember you. The two devices used is, one is irony and second is metaphor. These are the two devices. There is no rhyming scheme. In this poem.